It's the Ross Tucker Football Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is Jack, I forget the name of it on a Tuesday when it's not a Power Rankings Tuesday anymore. It's a Tucker Tuesday. It's a Tuckheads Tuesday. Let's give a shout out to the latest Tuckhead at patreon.com/RT Media, Jeremy Cook. Jeremy, welcome to the family. I know a lot of you think you're just coming for the even money bets to see him in black and white. I totally appreciate that. But check out the private Slack channel. Check out some of the communities, some of the threads. It's awesome to be a part of. So welcome to the family, Jeremy. We are presented by DraftKings. I am going to pick someone that follows or becomes a page, a fan or friend or whatever it's called, of our new Ross Tucker Pod on Facebook. We have a new Ross Tucker Pod page on Facebook. That's who I'm picking this week again. So you guys already have the answers to the test ahead of time. And the sponsor confirmation email winner is someone that signs up for the free consultation at westshorehome.com/Ross. So it really is that easy to win this week. And by the way, your boy is not getting one. I'm getting two press passes this weekend. Giants, Eagles, I'm in the booth. And then Bills, Bengals, I'm on the sideline. So make sure you win this week so you can get one of those press passes, or Dolphins, Bills from this past weekend. I got a lot of awesome press passes from the season you can get, and I'm telling you how to do it. Just follow Facebook Pod or Ross Tucker Pod on Facebook, or sign up for the free consultation, westshorehome.com/Ross. We'll have a YouTube shout out winner, which I love, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. We continue to grow over there, which is exciting. Just subscribe and reply to any video. Shout out, Ross. I'm looking for the shout out. I'm looking for the big show.
The Big Show.
All right, Ross, we'll start with Brett Maher missing an NFL record 4 extra points, but it doesn't matter as the Cowboys sink the Buccaneers 31-14.
What a bummer of a game. And what a bummer for Maher that, I'm not criticizing you, Jack, but that's the thing you say about the game. I mean, it's a playoff game. It's Monday Night Football, nationally televised. It was the most anticipated of the wild card weekend games, and it ended up being the worst of them by far. The only one that was never really within doubt, the only one that there were no lead changes, it was a bummer. It really was. And then you have Maher missing the 4 extra points, which becomes one of the main focal points from the game, which really stinks, right, for him. And I think stinks for anybody. And in fact, I want to address this real quick because I wrote this on Twitter and I don't think people necessarily understood what I meant. So I said on Twitter that when Maher missed 4 extra points like that, I was thinking about his mom, thinking about his wife, thinking about his family, right? And a lot of people didn't understand that. He's not dead, bro. Or why are you thinking about his family? Because he's a real person. And they have family. And think about how painful that is for them, whether they're in the stands or whether they're watching on TV, to see their loved one struggling that much in front of millions of people, knowing it's going to be a defining moment, how people are going to remember him, knowing what he must be going through mentally, how tough that has to be for him, probably the best victory that his team has had, and yet all he can think about is all the missed extra points. I know that there were times when I was struggling, if I was playing bad or whatever, right? Your family goes through it with you. You know, sometimes people are like, oh, he's just missing extra points. This is all this guy does is kick field goals. This is his job. And to just struggle that seriously on that stage, yeah, it had to be so painful for his family members. It was painful for me. I don't even know Brett Maher. So that's what I meant. He's a real person with a real family who loves him, and it's tough for them to watch him go through that. That's it. That's simple. I will say this about the rest of the game. Man, there's a lot to get to here, right? First of all, the Bucs activated Ryan Jensen. So that's something that I think we need to take some time on. This guy had partially tore multiple ligaments, I think the first or second day of training camp. He rehabbed all season for the chance to come back in the playoffs and make a run at this thing. He didn't need to do that. He's 1 year into a new free agent deal. He gets his money regardless. So next time you hear someone say professional athletes don't care or it's all about the money or whatever, just remember Ryan Jensen. He didn't have to do that at all. In fact, probably wasn't the smartest thing to do for him professionally or for his career to have his first game be in the playoffs this year and to rehab all year to come back for that. Tip of the cap to Ryan Jensen. A lot of guys, and I mean a lot of guys, would not have done that. That's a true warrior and a true professional right there. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out for the Bucs. The Cowboys, I was surprised, by the way. Cowboys started Jason Peters at left tackle and put Tyler Smith at left guard for some reason. I don't really know why they did that. I think it's because Tyler Smith in pass protection had struggled at times at left tackle and it got in a bunch of holding penalties. And so I think that was the concern, was that the Cowboys thought they were going to have to throw it a lot and that Tyler Smith would get penalties at left tackle. But Jason Peters got hurt in the first half with a hip injury and wasn't able to come back anyway. So he's had a tough time the last few years finishing games, Jason Peters. So I don't know how bad it was, but fortunately for them, their left guard replacement, Connor McGovern, started a bunch of games for this year. He is a very solid player that I am guessing will do pretty well in free agency. But the Cowboys were able to just bump Tyler Smith out to left tackle and keep rolling. Interestingly, I thought, Jack, both teams got off to a slow start. I think the first 12 plays was like -2 yards by the teams combined. After that, by the way, Dak Prescott was almost perfect. And honestly, I'm happy for him. I don't really care who wins these games. I like to see someone like Tom Brady, a former teammate, do well. I like when my picks are right. You know, I had the Bucs getting 3 points on the Even Money podcast. Certainly that was a loser. Game wasn't really close. The game was a blowout. Micah Parsons, as usual, was everywhere. And I think I tweeted this last night at Ross Tucker NFL. Nick Bosa is going to be the defensive player of the year. And I think he deserves that. I do. But if you ask every defensive coordinator, you're going to start your own defense. There's an expansion team. Who would be your first pick? Boy. I mean, a healthy Aaron Donald, if he wants to play for a while still, would be way up there. But Micah Parsons, I mean, they're dropping him into coverage. He's having multiple passes defensed. He's chasing plays down from the backside. He's forcing holding penalties. He's getting pressure. I mean, he's just a stud. He's just everywhere. So that certainly jumped out. Tony Pollard, very productive as usual for the Cowboys. I'll tell you, two things really jumped out to me. First of all, Dak just looked so comfortable. Remember last week, Greg Cosell said on Thursday, I don't see Dak playing 2 bad games in a row. Well, kudos to you, Greg. You were all over it. He was so comfortable making plays with his arm. He actually made a few plays with his legs. He made some plays on the move. I mean, Dak was locked in and played lights out. And there's always this reputation for Dak that doesn't play well in the playoffs. So I'm glad. And maybe that's true. I don't even know. I have to go back and look. But I'm happy for him that he was able to go out and play at that high of a level. I'll tell you the other thing that jumped out to me. Watching those two teams, how could anyone ever interview Byron Leftwich for a head coaching job compared to Kellen Moore? I mean, Kellen Moore's offense is so creative and guys are wide open and love some of the play action stuff. And it looked like he was one step ahead of the Bucs defense the whole time. Byron Leftwich and the Bucs, they never do anything until they go no huddle. They never do anything of note until they go no huddle. They should have gone no huddle from the start of the game. They should have gone no huddle from the start of the year. I mean, watching those two teams, I mean, Kellen Moore's playing chess. Byron Leftwich is playing tic-tac-toes. That was brutal how different that was. I mean, brutal. And then what else? Brady, the play of the game was Tom Brady throwing a terrible interception in the first half. They had just said, okay, that Brady has never thrown a end zone interception, red zone interception as a member of the Bucs. 3 years. They show the graphic. He does it. To J-Ron Curse. Just a critical error that totally took the wind out of the sails for the Bucs. Totally took the wind out of their sails. Now, I think they would have lost anyway, but it really didn't give them a chance after that. It was so bad, that interception. Very uncharacteristic from Brady, and he missed a bunch of throws. I mean, there's throws that he misses, like to Mike Evans, where I don't know what that is. I don't know what is going on some of these throws by him. And yet, supposedly he wants to keep playing. I don't know. To me, to me as a former teammate, it's kind of a bummer to watch him like this. It's kind of a bummer to watch him because it's sad. He's not playing well at all. It's really sad. Dak Prescott, just so good. Dalton Schultz has become a huge weapon for the Cowboys. Had a couple touchdowns in the first half. At one point, the Cowboys had 4 straight touchdown drives. 4 straight touchdown drives after the touchdown at the back of the end zone by Michael Gallup to start the second half. And then another missed extra point, by the way, which at that point made it 24-0. Finally the Bucs were able to get a touchdown. Brady threw a bomb to Julio Jones, which is a great play by Julio Jones. But then the Cowboys just answered. Dak, bing, bang, boom, right down the field again. Ended up being an absolute blowout. Don't let it be a blowout, by the way, when it comes to you, your family, your finances. Rocket Money is awesome. I'm a big fan of this thing. I had seen commercials on TV, but I hadn't actually used it myself. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. So over 80% of you are like me. You have subscriptions that you forgot about, probably a free trial or a streaming service that you don't even use anymore. It's crazy easy. I was scrolling through the app, and any subscription you don't want anymore, they'll cancel it for you. I mean, you don't even have to go customer service. Sometimes you want to cancel these and it takes forever. No, you just press the button. They cancel it for you. That in and of itself is worth it to me to not have to try to find a way to cancel some of these subscriptions. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Ross. That's rocketmoney.com/Ross, rocketmoney.com/Ross.
Tuck's Takes.
We'll start with a new yearly tradition, the NFL and college football. Jim Harbaugh and Michigan announced that he will be staying with the Wolverines.
For now. I mean, it seems pretty clear based on the last couple years that what are all the things that could be going on here, right? Number one, he really wants an NFL job, but he's not getting offered it the way he wants it to be, or he's not getting offered it at all. So he's either not getting offered an NFL job, or he's not getting offered an NFL job with the control that he desires, or he's annually just trying to get more money out of Michigan, which I guess is a possibility. Or maybe he thinks it's good for Michigan and good for him and his brand with recruits if he's constantly talking to the NFL. I don't know. Maybe it makes him and Michigan more high profile. I know sometimes people would be concerned about that because recruits would be concerned that, he's not even going to be there if I go there. But maybe Jim Harbaugh has figured out, you know what? That's good for me. That's good for Michigan. If recruits and families think the NFL wants me every year. At any rate, is there anybody that has any doubt that we're going to go through this again next year? Because I don't.
Tuck's Takes.
Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud declares for the 2023 NFL draft, and so does USC wide receiver Jordan Addison.
So he thought long and hard about staying in school, did C.J. Stroud. Long and hard about staying in school, which would have really changed the discussion around NIL. Because if a guy that's projected as a top 5 pick stays in school, then, we've got a couple top 15 guys, but top 5, a quarterback that started a couple years, then that would have been a much different conversation. It would have been like, wow, NIL's to the point where guys would rather get paid to play another year in college, which would really be something. Jordan Addison, I think we kind of knew that was coming after Jordan Addison essentially did what Emery and I were talking about on College Draft last week, which is he wasn't allowed to go pro last year. So he had to play one more year in college. Why not go to college free agency and go to the highest bidder, which evidently was USC, right? I think that's basically what Jordan Addison ended up doing. And he made a bunch of money from USC, had a good year, and now he goes pro. Not college pro, but pro. We'll talk more about both those guys, by the way, on today's College Draft podcast. So make sure you tune. We got College Draft this morning, really early, just like this show. And then we've got Even Money with Steve Fezzik. And remember, these are all just different ways in which me and somebody else talk about football. So I highly encourage you guys to check it out, especially now, this time of year. There's only 8 teams left. So make sure you're checking it out to get ready for the draft, the College Draft podcast. And then we've got Even Money, which is just awesome.
Tuck's Takes.
Sean Payton says the Saints want a mid to late first-round pick for him.
I don't know how the Saints would feel about him broadcasting that, right? Doesn't that kind of hurt their leverage a little bit? They were looking to get more than that. I don't know. I don't know that that's Sean Payton's place to really be announcing that. But I suppose since he's already on TV for Fox and on radio for Fox, and he's got this platform to be able to talk about it, he can talk about it. Talk about what's important to him and put it out there so that teams have a pretty good idea. And if they don't get it, then fans can know, you know what, we could have had him, and we just had to give up this mid to late first round pick. I don't know. I hope that's true. And if it is, I'm glad we know about it.
Tuck's Takes.
Jonah Williams dislocated his kneecap, which is a reoccurrence of the same injury from week 5.
Doesn't sound good, Jack. Doesn't sound good. Speaking of injuries, by the way, I think I saw Adam Schefter tweet something this morning that Russell Gage, he got carted off late in the fourth quarter last night, the receiver for the Bucks. Kind of a scary situation. They put him on a backboard after he got nailed in the back of the head. He was hospitalized with a concussion and a potential neck injury. So just something to think about. Hopefully Russell Gage is okay. I mean, you never like to see any injury ever, but especially going to the hospital or neck or concussion, and then, last game of the year too. So thinking about Russell Gage. And then Jonah Williams. This is tough. So on the one hand, for the Bengals, I feel like it's tough for them to come back from that. Like they don't have the O-line depth to have 3 starters out. Maybe Kappa can come back, but they said week to week for the right guard Kappa and the left tackle Jonah Williams. Usually week to week means they're not playing that week, right? That's usually what week to week means. And then usually day to day, they have a chance to play that week. The thing I will say is at least this week, they can prepare for it knowing those guys aren't going to play, as opposed to Jonah Williams getting hurt during the game. And they also are in a situation, guys that are playing like Adeniji at right tackle or Jackson Carman at left tackle, these guys were actually starting last year in the playoffs. So as much of a drop-off as they are, and they're not good, they're still the guys that Joe Burrow was able to get to the Super Bowl with last year. So who knows?
Tux takes.
The Cardinals hired Monty Ossenfort from the Tennessee Titans as their new general manager.
So that's really interesting on 2 levels. One is, the Cardinals actually had a couple of in-house candidates that people thought they would hire. Adrian Wilson, the former safety, Quentin Harris, who's kind of an up-and-comer and had been with Arizona for a while. But Michael Bidwell, the owner for the Cardinals, felt like he needed to go outside the organization, I think, and I get that. This is not like an organization that had been having a lot of success recently. It's like a model organization where it's like you got to take Howie Roseman's number 2 guy or whatever. That wasn't really the case with the Cardinals. So I understand why Bidwell wanted to go outside of the organization. It is interesting, though, that he hires someone from the Titans, because the Titans, checks notes, don't have a GM. The Texans fired their GM, John Robinson, during the year. So they could have just promoted Ossenfort, but instead he goes to the Titans, from the Titans to the Cardinals, which is interesting.
Tux takes.
The Jaguars signed CFL quarterback Nathan Rourke to a futures contract.
So he played college ball in the MAC at Ohio. His brother is there right now, or was there right now, or whatever. So it's been a while since I heard this much buzz about a CFL quarterback. So I'm kind of curious to hear what if any of you are up in Canada have watched Nathan Rourke play. Be curious to hear about him. Maybe I'll ask Emery about him. Don't let me forget, Jack, to ask Emery about him on the College Draft podcast, because Emery follows all these other leagues. He must be playing pretty darn well to have this much buzz about him. And I think he believes he's got his best chance to be a backup in Jacksonville behind Trevor Lawrence to at least get an NFL job, which makes sense. We got time to get to an email, Jack. I love it. What do you got?
Oh, we got to do the buzzer for you. You're shooting way too quick, man.
Ever wanted to ask an NFL player a question? Well, here's your chance. It's time to Ask Ross.
Email address is ross@rosstucker.com. You're right. I jumped the gun this time, Jack. Love your email questions. Love it. What do you have here?
So this one is from Stephen Schilhable. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He says, Ross, I just left a comment on YouTube and a review on Apple Podcast. Loved the conversation today with Greg about Derek Carr. I'm a massive fan of the Raiders, and your coverage of this story was by far the best. Instead of repeating the same old, Greg talked about what Derek did well and struggled with. In addition, you point out the job of the coach. If you have a press pass from Las Vegas, I'd love one. P.S. I'm 53 and I've watched every Raiders game since DirecTV came out. Every national televised game before that. While I understand the business, I'm just a fan. I appreciate what Derek Carr did for the Raiders. Below is a list of quarterbacks that start between Rich Gannon and Derek Carr for the Raiders. Nothing but love for me for what he did for the franchise. It's been a poorly managed franchise for decades now, and he brought stability and gave the fans a reason to watch.
I think it's Steve Schlabel.
Schlabel?
I think he lives in Wisconsin, and he's been a long-time listener, which is awesome. And Steve, I really appreciate fans that have some perspective. You know, I mean, not every quarterback is going to be Mahomes. You know, Derek Carr started almost every game for 9 years and was a solid starting quarterback in the NFL, including just 2021 when he got them to the playoffs and was a top 12, maybe top 10 quarterback. He's not elite, but he's not bad either. And Raiders fans that want to get rid of him, I would just say careful what you wish for. Be very, very careful what you wish for. I like that email, Jack. I like that email from Steve because I like fans that can see the big picture, not just, we went to the playoffs twice. 0 playoff wins in 9 years, man. Like, look around him. Look at what's gone on. Look what they've done. Do you really think that's all on Derek Carr, that they don't have any playoff wins? By the way, they probably would have had one, but he broke his leg when they had that awesome year when he and Khalil Mack were young, and he wasn't able to play in the playoffs, which really, really stunk. Who was it? Connor Cook had to start at Houston. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. Some shout-outs are in order. Pizza Boy Brewing, Sporticulture, HumanHeadNYC.com, SteakhouseSports.com, Go-Bengals.com, Evergreen Economics, Vision Comics with an X, BackOfficeScheduler.com, and of course, the gift that keeps on giving. It'll be here before you know it. Valentine's Day is your time to shine for your significant other with a story that's written all about them. Beautiful. Front page of the newspaper, myfrontpagestory.com. College draft soon, even money a little bit later. I think we're done here.
Thanks for listening to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Fantasy Feast, Even Money, Business of Sports, and College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.